The moment I laid eyes on the old weathered house on Oak Ridge Lane, a chill crawled up my spine. Its once vibrant paint was peeling, revealing layers of decay beneath, and the windows were dark, like hollow eyes watching me approach. I was desperate for a place to stay after a bitter argument with my parents left me homeless, and Luke's ad for a room to rent had seemed like a lifeline. But as I stepped through the creaking door, I felt an unsettling presence lurking just beneath the surface. "Welcome to my humble abode," Luke said with a nervous smile, his voice trembling as he gestured for me to enter. The air inside was thick with an odd mix of mustiness and something metallic that made my stomach churn. He was reclusive, awkwardly shifting his weight from foot to foot as he showed me around. The living room was open and inviting, yet shadows danced in the corners, hinting at secrets hidden away. His rules echoed in my mind. No parties, no gatherings, no access to the basement. Something about those rules felt more like warnings than guidelines. As I settled into my new room, I dismissed the unease gnawing at me. The first few nights were quiet, too quiet, until the sounds began. Footsteps echoing in the hallway at odd hours, and doors creaking open and shut when I knew I was alone. Each night, I lay awake in bed, straining to hear what Luke was doing down the hall. One night, a loud bang jolted me from sleep. Heart racing, I crept out of bed and tiptoed toward the basement door that stood ajar, a dim light flickering from below. As I peered down into the abyss, a cold draft swept through me, carrying with it a foul stench that made me gag. It was then that I heard it, a low thumping sound followed by a whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "Shut the basement door," Luke's voice echoed from behind me, startling me as he appeared at the top of the stairs. His eyes glinted in the darkness, an unsettling mix of annoyance and something darker. I stumbled back into my room, heart pounding in my chest as I locked the door behind me. Days passed, each filled with mounting dread. One evening, I returned home to find my bedroom door unlocked. My belongings had been rifled through. Clothes were strewn about like evidence of a struggle. Panic surged through me as I realized Luke had violated my privacy. He had been in my room without permission. I confronted him about it, but he merely shrugged it off with a blank stare that felt like ice against my skin. "You have the only key," he insisted, his voice devoid of emotion. That night, driven by fear and curiosity, I decided to explore the basement while he was out. Navigating down those creaky steps felt like walking into a trap. The air grew colder with each step until I reached the bottom. An ugly couch sat in the middle of the room, surrounded by shadowy corners that seemed to pulse with life. A locked door loomed ominously in one corner, its handle cold and unyielding against my touch. The smell intensified here, like something rotting away in darkness. Suddenly, something moved behind me, a flicker of movement that sent adrenaline coursing through my veins. I turned to find nothing but shadows dancing in the dim light. My heart raced as I rushed back upstairs, slamming the door shut behind me. That night was different. Sleep evaded me entirely until I awoke to find Luke leaning over my bed, his face inches from mine in the dark. Panic surged as he shushed me softly and whispered questions about the basement. How did he get in? My scream pierced through the silence as he calmly walked away after telling me to find other living arrangements. I packed frantically, throwing clothes into bags as terror gripped me tight. When I demanded half of my rent back, a mere 2 weeks into this nightmare, he handed me cash with an eerie calmness that made my skin crawl. I fled that house faster than I'd ever run before, sleeping in my car that night under a sky full of stars that felt impossibly distant. The next day, after recounting my harrowing experience to my parents, who welcomed me back with open arms, I realized how close I'd come to something far worse than just an uncomfortable living situation. In Ravenwood, some houses hold secrets best left buried, and some landlords are better left untrusted. If you ever consider taking on a random roommate from online listings, remember, not all doors should be open. Some should remain locked forever.